Namaste. In a recent meditation, I asked 3 brief questions. How many pieces of me are there? Who are we destined to become? What am I missing on time? And if you're someone looking for an answer and want to see how something like this plays out in a meditative flow, then you're in the right place, right? And if you want to discover the possibility of meditative intuition and the flow and what that could look like, you're in the right place. So we all have these trains of thought, and you're thinking and compiling an idea or in the middle of a discussion, right? And all of a sudden a trigger word or an interruption, like literally interrupts this train of thought. And think of them as like the cars on the train tracks, right? And having a thought come in just literally derails it. Although I consider it like a junction where it just takes the other train, you go down another track. Okay. And it can all disappear for a moment, right? Because you're over here now, you're deviated, you're not on your track. So how to get back on your track? So you can be off the track for a moment, or it might not come back for a while. You could be traveling on this other track. So you could see it sometimes also, or actually I see it as like this temporary path that leads me to the next track of the train of thought. And maybe that first one was only a jumping off point. I'm starting to see that more from my writing, that it's getting me to a place and then I jump off and then I go where I want to go from there. So almost like it's catching a ride on your thought, right? And I used to call these mind maps, which is another way to possibly perceive something like this. However, stopping at the stations really resonated with me. We stop at the station for the final answer, right? Following that train of thought through to the station in this manner does bring one confidence, right? Stopping in the middle of a thought and never finishing thoughts to see where they go leaves these open gaps of wishes I see, or shouldas, or that big ginormous space of I'll get back to that list that we all have. I've learned that list does not only exist in reality as to-do lists, things to do someday, but it occurs in our thoughts as well. Like I'll think more about that later. I see that in this experience of this inquiry and thinking deeper thoughts and following those trains, catching those trains. I'll go there someday, right? I'm going to go travel, right, to the Caribbean someday, stuff like that. So they just circle over and over again. And that's how a thought would occur. Just like when you're wishing you could do something, you're going to keep getting these reminders that, okay, here, you can do it now. You can do it now. You can go do it now. And that's how that plays out. So I discovered this in 2020, and I began consciously following these thoughts through, right? It was occurring, I could see these open loops. And at the time it occurred like a semi truck that gets a flat tire. And the guy doesn't know about it because it's so loud and so big and he's doing what he's doing. And it's just flapping, just flap, flap, flapping. There's all these wheels, you can't hardly tell, but it's just there. So these open loops to me were occurring like these big, just like they were that loud and that obvious, right? In 2020, this big awakening I had. And I was able to start closing because I could recognize the loops as these big flopping icky tires that were just slapping everybody in the face. Anyone driving past me, you guys slapped by my big floppy tire. So I started closing these open loops in a lot of areas in my life, like a lot, like it could be minutia and it could be giant. It was like exponential. And then I began creating these new powerful spaces in life with new open loops. They look different now, right? And except they're not always so stressful. And I get to wonder on purpose about things that I probably unconsciously wondered about before, or maybe not. Except now I'm intentionally making the inquiry and riding the trains of thought longer, staying on the train, right? So in a meditation, you're not pulled by going to do something that you should have did, right? You just literally bank Yeah, like you bank the time to create that space for thought to occur. That's a new concept for me. I did not know that was a thing that you could do. So when I'm intentionally making these inquiries and riding these trains longer, then I can reach the stations, right? Where is that diverted train going? I get to go to that station. And when I get to the station, that's where I receive the epiphany of a thought that I created in a question, right? The inquiry or what my wonderment was. So there's that epiphany that comes there. And then there's like the next clue, like the breadcrumbs, right? The next breadcrumb to follow. And yeah, it's such a fun mystery and a game at the same time and real life. I get it. But it really, these are all tools to manage my existence and possibly help humanity manage theirs, right? Through discovering with me, like you are here right now, or creating in your own world, finding your own way to be with your intuition and your thought, teaching you and sharing how this is done, how to like really be with yourself and see who you are and love it. Love it. Let it go, let enough go so that you can really love yourself.